Girl asks Keanu Reeves for help. Next day, she gets the shock of her life. The bustling streets of downtown Los Angeles were alive with the sounds of honking cars, murmuring crowds, and the occasional street performer vying for attention. Amid the chaos, 17-year-old Maya navigated the sidewalks with determination, her worn backpack slung over one shoulder and a crumpled map in her hand. She was on a mission, though it was one she wasn't entirely sure she could accomplish. Maya had spent weeks planning this trip. A scholarship student at a small high school on the outskirts of the city, she was determined to save her family's struggling bookstore from closing down. Her father, who had run the store for decades, had poured his heart into it, but competition from large chains and online retailers had left their business on the brink of collapse. The only hope, Maya had decided, was to enlist the help of someone influential, someone who could bring attention to their plight. That someone, in Maya's mind, was Keanu Reeves. The idea had come to her late one night as she scrolled through social media, her anxiety about the bookstore keeping her awake. She had stumbled across a post about Keanu's philanthropy, his down-to-earth demeanor, and his love for helping small businesses. It was a long shot, she knew, but Maya wasn't one to give up easily. If anyone would listen, it would be him. But now, standing outside the sleek glass doors of a film production studio where Keanu was reportedly attending a meeting, Maya felt her confidence wavering. She took a deep breath, clutching the strap of her backpack as if it could steady her nerves. She had written out her pitch, rehearsed it dozens of times, but the idea of actually approaching someone like Keanu Reeves felt impossibly daunting. Before she could overthink it, the doors swung open, and out stepped Keanu himself. He was dressed casually in a leather jacket and jeans, his long hair framing his face in loose waves. He seemed preoccupied, his gaze focused on the phone in his hand, but his presence was magnetic nonetheless. Maya's heart raced as she took a step forward. "Mr. Reeves?" she called out, her voice trembling. Keanu looked up, his brow furrowing slightly before his expression softened. He stopped, tucking his phone into his pocket. "Yes?" Maya hesitated for only a moment before launching into her prepared speech. "Hi, I'm Maya. I know this is really out of the blue, but I was hoping you could help me. My family runs a small bookstore. It's been in our community for decades, but we're about to lose it because of rising costs and competition. I read about how you've helped small businesses before, and I thought maybe you'd be willing to help us, too." Keanu studied her with a thoughtful expression, his eyes kind but unreadable. "A bookstore?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. "Tell me more." Encouraged by his interest, Maya quickly explained the situation. She told him about her father's dedication to the store, how it had become a haven for readers and writers in their neighborhood, and how it was more than just a business, it was a part of their community. Keanu listened intently, nodding occasionally as she spoke. When she finished, he smiled faintly. "That's quite a story," he said. "I can see why it means so much to you." Maya felt a flicker of hope. "So, would you be able to help? Even just spreading the word would make a huge difference." Keanu's gaze drifted past her for a moment, as if considering her request. Finally, he said, "I don't make promises I can't keep, but let me think about it. Do you have a way I can reach you?" Maya quickly pulled a notepad from her backpack, scribbling down her phone number and handing it to him. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice earnest. "Even just listening means a lot." Keanu nodded, slipping the paper into his pocket. "Good luck, Maya. And don't give up. Sometimes, things work out in ways you don't expect." With that, he gave her a small wave and continued down the street, leaving Maya standing there with a mixture of exhilaration and uncertainty. She had done it. She had spoken to Keanu Reeves. Whether or not it would lead to anything, she didn't know, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. The next day, Maya was back at the bookstore, helping her father reorganize the shelves. Business had been slow, as usual, and the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken worry. As she placed a stack of books onto a display table, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see an unknown number calling. "Hello," she answered cautiously. "Hi, Maya. It's Keanu." Her heart skipped a beat. "Oh, hi, Mr. Reeves. I didn't expect to hear from you so soon." "Well," he said with a chuckle, "I gave it some thought, and I have an idea." "Are you free this afternoon?" Maya glanced at her father, who was busy at the cash register. "I think so. What's the idea?" "I'll explain when I see you," he said. "Text me the address of your bookstore. I'll meet you there." Maya's hands were shaking as she hung up and quickly texted him the address. She didn't dare tell her father what was happening, not wanting to get his hopes up prematurely. Instead, she busied herself with tidying the store, her mind racing with possibilities. When Keanu arrived later that afternoon, he stepped into the bookstore with the same calm presence Maya had seen the day before. Her father looked up in surprise, clearly recognizing him, though he didn't say anything at first. "Mr. Reeves," Maya greeted him, trying to keep her voice steady. "Thank you for coming." He smiled. "It's Keanu. And thank you for having me. This is a beautiful store." Her father finally found his voice. "I'm sorry, what's going on here?" "Maya, is this?" "This is Keanu Reeves," she said, her cheeks flushing. "I met him yesterday and I told him about the store. He offered to help." Keanu stepped forward, shaking her father's hand. "Nice to meet you, sir. Maya told me a lot about what you've built here. It's clear how much it means to her, and to the community." Her father, still processing the situation, nodded slowly. "Thank you for coming. I'm not sure how you can help, but we appreciate you taking the time." Keanu smiled. "I've got a couple of ideas. Mind if I take a look around?" As he wandered through the aisles, Maya followed him, explaining the layout and pointing out some of the store's unique features. He seemed genuinely interested, stopping to read the spines of books and commenting on the cozy atmosphere. When he returned to the front, he turned to Maya and her father. "All right," he said, his tone confident. "Here's what I'm thinking. You've got a great space here, but you need a way to draw people in. So how about this? I host a small event, a reading, maybe a Q&A. We'll promote it, get people talking, and see if we can spark some interest." Maya's jaw dropped. "You'd really do that?" "Of course," Keanu said. "But that's just step one. If we can bring in a good crowd, we'll use the momentum to create a campaign, something to highlight the importance of independent bookstores. We'll tell your story, Maya. People love stories like this." Her father looked at him, a mixture of disbelief and gratitude in his eyes. "I don't know what to say. This could save us." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let's take it one step at a time. First, we'll bring people in. The rest will follow." The news spread faster than Maya could have imagined. A flyer designed by one of Keanu's team members announced the event at their bookstore, featuring an exclusive Q&A session with the actor himself. Social media lit up with posts, comments, and shares from excited fans and local community members alike. The buzz around the event grew exponentially, with hashtags like #KeanuSupportsIndies trending across platforms. Maya's heart raced as she watched the excitement build. She couldn't believe this was actually happening. Her father, however, remained cautiously optimistic. "It's wonderful that he's doing this," he said one evening as they prepared the store for the big day. "But let's not pin all our hopes on it. We still have to figure out a way to keep things sustainable." Maya nodded, understanding his concerns. But deep down, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. If anyone could help them turn things around, it was Keanu Reeves. On the day of the event, the bookstore was transformed. Rows of chairs were set up in the main aisle, and a small stage was assembled near the back, complete with a microphone and a backdrop of bookshelves. Maya and her father had worked tirelessly to prepare, organizing books, cleaning every corner of the store, and setting up a display table with their best-selling titles. The shelves gleamed under the soft lighting, and the entire space radiated warmth and charm. By noon, a line had already formed outside the store, stretching down the block. Fans of all ages clutched books, posters, and cameras, chatting excitedly as they waited for their chance to see Keanu in person. Some had traveled from neighboring towns, while others had stumbled upon the event online and decided to come on a whim. The air buzzed with anticipation. Keanu arrived an hour before the event was set to begin. He entered through the back door to avoid causing a commotion, and Maya greeted him with a nervous but genuine smile. "Wow," she said, taking in his casual yet polished appearance. "I didn't think so many people would come." He chuckled, glancing out the window at the crowd. Never underestimate the power of a good story and a little star power. You ready for this? Maya nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. I think so. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're going to do great. Just be yourself. That's what got us here. The event began promptly at 3 p.m., and the store was packed to capacity. Maya stood at the front of the room, her father by her side, as she welcomed the crowd. She introduced Keanu, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach, and the audience erupted into applause as he took the stage. Keanu began by sharing a few anecdotes about his own love for books and how independent bookstores had shaped his life. He spoke about the importance of community spaces like this one and how they provided more than just books. They offered connection, inspiration, and a sense of belonging. I've always believed that stories have the power to change lives, he said, his voice calm but resonant. And places like this are where those stories begin. That's why we're here today, to keep that spirit alive. The audience hung on his every word, and Maya felt a surge of pride as she watched. She had always admired Keanu for his humility and authenticity, but seeing him champion their cause like this was something else entirely. The Q&A session that followed was a mix of light-hearted fun and heartfelt exchanges. Fans asked him about his favorite books, his career, and even his thoughts on life and philosophy. Keanu answered each question with thoughtfulness and humor, making everyone in the room feel seen and appreciated. When the event ended, Keanu stayed behind to sign autographs and take pictures with attendees. The line stretched out the door, but he didn't rush a single person, taking the time to chat with each fan and thank them for supporting the bookstore. Maya and her father worked alongside him, handing out signed copies of featured books and chatting with visitors about the store's history. By the time the last guest had left, the sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the storefront. The once quiet shelves were now buzzing with renewed energy, and Maya could hardly believe the transformation. Over the next few days, the impact of the event became clear. Foot traffic to the bookstore increased tenfold, with new customers eager to explore the space they had heard so much about. Sales soared, and several visitors expressed interest in hosting their own events at the store, from book clubs to writing workshops. Maya and her father worked tirelessly to keep up with the demand, but for the first time in months, they weren't worried about the future, they were excited for it. One morning, Maya was sorting through a shipment of new books when her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Keanu. Hey Maya. Saw the buzz around the store. Looks like the event made a difference. But I've been thinking, what's the next step? She stared at the screen, her mind racing. The event had been an incredible success, but Keanu was right. They needed to keep the momentum going. After a moment, she typed out a reply. I've been thinking about starting a community program, something that makes the store more than just a place to buy books. Maybe writing classes? Or storytelling nights? Keanu's response came quickly. I like it. Let's talk soon. I might have a few ideas to add. The conversation sparked a new wave of inspiration. Over the next few weeks, Maya and her father worked with Keanu to develop a series of community-focused initiatives. They launched a Storytime Saturdays program for kids, where local authors would read aloud from their books. They also introduced creative writing workshops for teens and adults, giving aspiring writers a platform to hone their craft. Keanu continued to be involved, lending his name and influence to promote the programs. He even attended a few of the workshops, offering encouragement and advice to participants. His presence drew even more attention to the bookstore, solidifying its reputation as a cultural hub in the community. As the months went on, Maya watched in awe as their small family business transformed into something much bigger than she had ever imagined. The bookstore wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And the best part was seeing the joy it brought to people, from the kids who giggled through story time to the writers who found their voices in the workshops. One evening, after the store had closed for the day, Maya and her father sat together in the cozy reading nook near the back. The shelves around them were filled with books, the air tinged with the comforting scent of paper and ink. I never thought we'd see this day, her father said, his voice thick with emotion. There were times I thought we'd have to say goodbye to all of this. Maya smiled, her heart full. Me too. But I guess sometimes all it takes is a little faith, and the right person to believe in you. Her father nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. You made this happen, Maya. You had the courage to ask for help, and you didn't give up. I'm so proud of you. As they sat there, a knock sounded at the door. Maya got up to answer it, surprised to see Keanu standing outside, a warm smile on his face. Hope I'm not interrupting, he said. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Maya stepped aside to let him in. You're always welcome here. Keanu glanced around the store, his expression softening. It looks amazing, Maya. You and your dad have done something really special here. She smiled. We couldn't have done it without you. He shook his head. All I did was open a door. You walked through it? As the three of them sat together, sharing stories and laughter, Maya couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in such a short time. The bookstore was alive again, not just with books, but with hope, creativity, and community. And in her heart, Maya knew this was just the beginning. In the months that followed, Maya's family bookstore became more than just a business. It became a cornerstone of the community. The programs she and Keanu had introduced transformed the space into a vibrant hub for creativity and connection. Storytime Saturdays drew dozens of families every week, while the writing workshops became a safe haven for aspiring authors of all ages. The bookstore's small cafe, which had once been empty on most days, now hummed with life as customers lingered over coffee and conversations about their favorite books. Maya's father seemed like a new man. The stress lines on his face had softened, replaced by a quiet confidence. He no longer looked at the sales reports with dread but with curiosity, marveling at the steady increase in revenue. More importantly, he felt the weight of the store's legacy shifting in a meaningful way. It wasn't just a place to sell books, it was a place where stories were born. One evening, as Maya was restocking shelves after closing, her phone buzzed with a text from Keanu. Got another idea. Call me when you have a minute. She smiled, dialing his number immediately. By now, their conversations had become a regular part of her week, and she always looked forward to hearing his next idea. Keanu, she said as he picked up, I'm afraid to ask what you've come up with this time. He laughed. Don't worry, it's nothing too crazy. I was thinking about the workshops and storytime programs. They're amazing, but they're local. What if we took them online? Maya paused, the idea immediately taking shape in her mind. You mean like live streams? Or recorded sessions? Both? Keanu said. We could create a series of videos, writing tutorials, author interviews, maybe even live Q&A sessions with you and your dad. It would give people who can't visit the store a chance to be part of what you're building. Maya's mind raced with possibilities. Taking their programs online would not only expand their reach but also help secure the store's future in an increasingly digital world. She thought about the countless people who had messaged her on social media, saying they wished they could visit the store but lived too far away. This could be the answer. That's brilliant, she said finally. But where do we even start? I'll handle the logistics, Keanu said. We'll get a professional team to handle the filming and editing. All you need to do is focus on the content. Maya felt a mix of excitement and nerves. But let's do it. Within weeks, the project was underway. Keanu's production team set up shop in the bookstore, transforming it into a temporary studio. Cameras and lights were carefully positioned to capture the warm, inviting atmosphere of the space. Maya and her father worked closely with the team, brainstorming ideas for videos that would resonate with their audience. The first series focused on the writing workshops, with Maya leading sessions on topics like character development, crafting dialogue, and overcoming writer's block. Her father, who had a wealth of knowledge about books and the publishing industry, hosted a series on the history of literature and the art of storytelling. They even brought in local authors to share their insights and experiences, creating a diverse range of content. Keanu, true to his word, participated as well. He filmed a heartfelt video about his own love for books and how they had shaped his life. In it, he spoke directly to the camera, encouraging viewers to support independent bookstores and to never stop seeking out stories that move them. You never know where a story will take you, he said in the video. It might even bring you here, to a little bookstore in Los Angeles, where magic happens every day. When the videos launched online, the response was overwhelming. The bookstore's YouTube channel quickly gained thousands of subscribers, with viewers from around the world tuning in to watch the sessions. The comments were filled with gratitude and admiration, with people praising Maya and her father for their dedication and creativity. The online platform also brought in new customers. The store's website, which had been updated to include an online shop, saw a surge in orders for books, merchandise, and even personalized recommendations from Maya and her father. The revenue from the digital sales helped stabilize the business, giving them the resources they needed to keep growing. One evening, as Maya scrolled through the comments on their latest video, she came across one that stopped her in her tracks. "I'm from a small town in the Midwest, and we don't have any bookstores here. Watching your videos has inspired me to start my own book club and maybe even open a little shop one day. Thank you for showing me what's possible." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she read the message. She had always dreamed of saving her family's bookstore, but she hadn't realized how far the ripple effect of their efforts could reach. They weren't just saving their store, they were inspiring others to create spaces for stories and community in their own towns. As the months went on, the bookstore continued to thrive. Maya's father often joked that they had gone from the brink of closure to being busier than ever. They had expanded their staff, bringing on a few part-time employees to help manage the increased workload. Maya had even started mentoring a local high school student who wanted to pursue a career in publishing. Keanu remained a constant presence, though he often worked behind the scenes. He would drop by the store occasionally, always with new ideas and his signature humility. To Maya, he wasn't just a celebrity, he was a partner, a mentor, and a friend. One afternoon, as they sat together in the cafe area, Keanu turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "this place has become more than just a bookstore. It's a movement. Have you ever thought about taking it further?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Further? How?" "Franchises," he said simply. "Independent bookstores like this one, all over the country. Each one unique, but all connected by the same mission, to bring stories and communities together." Maya's heart skipped a beat. The idea was ambitious, daunting even, but it also felt like a natural evolution of everything they had built. She thought about the comments she had read, about the person in the Midwest who dreamed of opening their own store. Maybe this was how they could make that dream a reality for others. "It's a big step," she said finally, "but I think it's worth exploring." Keanu smiled. "That's the spirit. One step at a time, right?" Over the next year, Maya and her team began laying the groundwork for the first Plume and Page franchise, in homage to the name of their original bookstore. They partnered with local entrepreneurs and book lovers, providing them with resources, guidance, and a shared vision. Each new store retained its own personality, reflecting the community it served, but they were all united by the same mission: to keep the love of books alive. By the time the first franchise opened its doors in a small town in Oregon, the movement had already gained momentum. Media outlets covered the story of how one small bookstore had sparked a national initiative, and the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Maya couldn't believe how far they had come, and she knew there was still so much more to do. One evening, as Maya locked up the store after a long but fulfilling day, she found Keanu waiting outside, leaning casually against his motorcycle. He grinned when he saw her, his expression warm and familiar. "Thought I'd swing by," he said. "How's everything going?" Maya smiled, the weight of the day's successes and challenges fading in his presence. "Better than I could have ever imagined." He nodded, his eyes reflecting a quiet pride. "You've done something incredible, Maya. Don't ever forget that." As they stood there under the soft glow of the streetlights, Maya realized how much had changed since the day she had first approached him on the street. What had started as a desperate plea for help had turned into a partnership, a movement, and a legacy. And in that moment, she knew that the story of their little bookstore was far from over. The months following the launch of the first Plume and Page franchise in Oregon were a whirlwind. The success of the store not only exceeded expectations but also ignited a wave of interest from communities across the country. Maya and her father were inundated with inquiries from independent bookstore enthusiasts, small-town entrepreneurs, and even school libraries that wanted to replicate the model. The idea of creating a network of independent bookstores that celebrated both the unique identities of their communities and the shared love of literature was no longer a distant dream. It was becoming a reality. But with success came challenges. Maya, now juggling the demands of running the original store, managing online content, and overseeing the franchise model, found herself stretched thin. The work was rewarding, but it was also relentless. Late nights became the norm, and she often found herself wondering how she could maintain the personal touch that had made the original bookstore so special. One evening, as Maya sat at her desk in the back office, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and her ever-buzzing phone, Keanu stopped by unannounced. He entered through the back door with his usual easygoing demeanor, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bag of pastries. "You look like you could use a break," he said, setting the bag and coffee down on her desk. Maya let out a tired laugh. "You have no idea. But there's so much to do. I'm afraid if I slow down, everything will fall apart." Keanu pulled up a chair and sat across from her, his expression calm but serious. "Maya, I've seen a lot of people burn out because they tried to do everything themselves. The truth is, you don't have to carry all of this on your own. You've built something incredible, and part of that is trusting the right people to help you keep it going." Maya nodded, his words hitting close to home. "I know you're right. It's just hard to let go of control. This place means so much to me." "It's not about letting go," Keanu said. "It's about sharing the load. You've already inspired so many people. They want to be part of this because they believe in what you've built. Let them help you." Taking Keanu's advice to heart, Maya began delegating more responsibilities. She hired a team to handle the day-to-day operations of the original bookstore, allowing her to focus on the bigger picture. She also brought in a group of trusted advisors to help manage the growing franchise network. Each franchise was carefully vetted to ensure it upheld the values of Plume and Page, community, creativity, and a deep love of stories. The changes made an immediate difference. With the weight of the smaller tasks lifted from her shoulders, Maya found herself with more time and energy to dedicate to new initiatives. One of her first projects was a literacy outreach program aimed at underserved communities. The program provided free books to children and adults who couldn't afford them, along with workshops on reading and storytelling. Keanu enthusiastically supported the idea, even donating a significant portion of the funding to get it off the ground. The program launched with a traveling bookmobile, a brightly painted van filled with shelves of books and a small reading area. Maya and her team drove the bookmobile to schools, community centers, and even rural areas where access to books was limited. The joy on the faces of the children who picked out their very first books was enough to remind Maya why she had started this journey in the first place. Meanwhile, the online presence of Plume and Page continued to flourish. The YouTube channel now had millions of subscribers, with viewers eagerly awaiting new videos. Maya's workshops and her father's literary history series became staples of the platform, and the addition of author interviews and live Q&A sessions only deepened the connection with their audience. One day, Maya received an email from a young writer in the Philippines. The email was long and heartfelt, describing how the videos had inspired her to start writing again after years of self-doubt. She had recently finished her first novel and credited the workshops with giving her the confidence to pursue her dream. Maya read the email with tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by the impact Plume and Page was having on people around the world. She forwarded the email to Keanu, who replied within minutes. "This is why we do it. Keep going." As the years went by, the Plume and Page network grew to include dozens of franchises across the United States and even a handful of international locations. Each store retained its own personality, shaped by the community it served, but they were all connected by a shared mission. The franchise owners often collaborated, sharing ideas and resources to strengthen the network as a whole. Maya also continued to innovate, launching a mentorship program for young writers and aspiring bookstore owners. The program paired them with experienced professionals who could guide them through the challenges of their chosen paths. Keanu, ever the advocate for supporting new talent, became one of the mentors, offering his insights to a group of wide-eyed participants who couldn't believe they were learning from a Hollywood legend. One evening, as Maya sat in the original bookstore reflecting on the journey so far, her father joined her. The store was quiet, the last customers of the day having left hours ago. They sat together in the cozy reading nook, surrounded by the familiar scent of books and the warm glow of the overhead lights. "Do you ever think about how this all started?" her father asked, his voice filled with wonder. "All the time," Maya replied with a smile. "I was so nervous when I approached Keanu that day. I didn't think he'd even listen to me, let alone help." Her father nodded. "It's amazing how one moment, one decision, can change everything." Maya thought about that for a moment. "I think about what he said to me back then, how sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect. I couldn't have imagined any of this, but now I can't imagine anything else." Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've built something incredible, Maya. Something that's going to last." That night, as Maya locked up the store and walked home under the glow of the streetlights, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for her father, for the bookstore, and for the unexpected partnership that had changed her life. She thought about the countless lives Plume and Paige had touched, the children who had discovered the magic of stories, the writers who had found their voices, and the communities that had come together around a shared love of books. And she thought about Keanu, whose kindness and belief in her had sparked it all. She pulled out her phone and sent him a quick text. "Thank you for everything. I'll never stop being grateful." His reply came moments later. "Neither will I. This is just the beginning." The journey of Plume and Paige didn't just grow. It evolved, transforming into something far more profound than Maya could have ever imagined. With the franchise network expanding and the mentorship program thriving, Maya and her father began to focus on an even larger mission, using stories to bridge cultural divides and create global connections. It was Keanu who first floated the idea during a late-night brainstorming session at the bookstore. He leaned back in his chair, sipping a cup of herbal tea as he looked at Maya thoughtfully. "You know, Maya," he began, "there's something timeless about stories. They're not bound by borders or languages, they speak to everyone. What if we used Plume and Paige as a platform to bring different cultures together? We could partner with storytellers, writers, and artists from around the world to share their voices." Maya's eyes lit up at the suggestion. "You mean like an international storytelling initiative? Something that highlights voices from places that don't always get heard?" "Exactly," Keanu said. "We could even organize a festival, an event that brings people together, celebrates stories, and showcases the richness of different cultures." The idea immediately sparked excitement, and Maya wasted no time assembling her team to start planning. Within weeks, the vision for the Plume and Paige Global Storytelling Festival began to take shape. The festival was planned as a 3-day event in Los Angeles, hosted at a sprawling outdoor venue that could accommodate thousands of attendees. Writers, poets, filmmakers, and artists from over 20 countries were invited to participate, each one bringing their unique cultural perspective to the event. The festival would feature live readings, panel discussions, film screenings, and interactive workshops, as well as food stalls offering cuisine from around the world. Keanu, ever the dedicated partner, threw himself into the planning process. He personally reached out to some of his favorite authors and filmmakers, convincing them to take part. His name lent the festival credibility, but it was the vision behind it that truly resonated with people. "This isn't just an event," Keanu said during one of the planning meetings. "It's a movement. It's about showing the world that stories connect us, no matter where we come from." Maya couldn't agree more. As the pieces of the festival came together, she felt a sense of purpose unlike anything she'd ever experienced. This wasn't just about saving a bookstore or building a franchise, it was about making a global impact. When the festival finally opened, it was nothing short of magical. The venue buzzed with energy as attendees explored the different sections, from the storytelling tents to the open-air film screenings. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, each one representing a different country, and the air was filled with the sounds of laughter, conversation, and the occasional strum of a guitar. Maya stood near the main stage, marveling at the sight before her. She had spent months pouring her heart into this event, and now, seeing it come to life, she felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. "Pretty incredible, isn't it?" Keanu said, stepping up beside her. Maya turned to him with a smile. "More than I could have ever imagined." None of this would have happened without you. Keanu shook his head. You're the one who made it happen, Maya. I just helped open a few doors. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of applause as the first keynote speaker took the stage. The speaker was a renowned poet from Nigeria, whose words wove a tapestry of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of stories. As the audience hung on her every word, Maya felt a lump rise in her throat. This was what it was all about, creating moments that brought people together and celebrated the beauty of human expression. Over the next 3 days, the festival became a vibrant celebration of storytelling in all its forms. Maya and Keanu hosted several panels together, discussing the journey of Plume and Page and the role of stories in shaping culture. Attendees lined up to meet them after the sessions, sharing their own stories and thanking them for creating such a meaningful event. One particularly memorable moment came during a panel on the future of storytelling. A young girl in the audience, no older than 12, stood up and asked a question that left everyone in the room thoughtful. How do you make people believe in their own stories? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Maya smiled warmly, leaning forward to address the girl directly. That's a beautiful question, she said. The first step is to believe in your own story yourself. Every story matters, yours, mine, everyone's. And when you share your story with others, you'll find people who understand it, who connect with it. That's how belief grows, by being brave enough to share. Keanu nodded in agreement, adding, and remember, every great storyteller starts somewhere. Don't be afraid to take that first step, even if it's just writing something down for yourself. Stories have a way of finding their way into the world. The girl beamed, her confidence visibly growing, and the audience erupted into applause. By the end of the festival, Plume and Page had cemented its place not just as a bookstore or a franchise, but as a global movement. The event had drawn thousands of attendees, generated media coverage from outlets around the world, and most importantly, inspired countless people to embrace the power of storytelling. As Maya and Keanu stood on the main stage during the closing ceremony, addressing the crowd one last time, Maya couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by gratitude. This festival is proof that stories connect us in ways nothing else can, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Thank you for being part of this journey. And remember, every story matters. Every voice matters. So keep telling your stories because the world needs them. Keanu stepped forward, his own voice steady and heartfelt. Maya's right. Stories have the power to heal, to inspire, and to unite. And seeing all of you here today gives me hope for the future. So let's keep creating, sharing, and building something beautiful together. The crowd erupted into cheers, their energy electrifying. As Maya and Keanu stepped off the stage, they exchanged a look of quiet satisfaction. They had started something bigger than either of them had imagined, and they knew this was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, the impact of the festival continued to ripple outward. New partnerships were formed, writers and artists found platforms for their work, and Plume and Page became synonymous with storytelling, community, and connection. Maya, now a recognized leader in the literary world, was invited to speak at conferences, collaborate on global initiatives, and mentor the next generation of storytellers. Keanu, ever the humble partner, continued to support the movement from both the spotlight and behind the scenes. Their bond had grown into a true friendship, built on mutual respect and a shared vision. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of the original bookstore, Keanu turned to Maya with a thoughtful expression. You know, he said, this all started with a simple question. You asked me for help, and it changed everything. Maya smiled, her heart full. I'll never forget that moment. It taught me that sometimes, all it takes is the courage to ask, and the kindness to say yes. Keanu nodded, his eyes reflecting a quiet pride. And look where it's taken us. The world is a little brighter because of what you've built, Maya. Don't ever stop. The weeks following the Plume and Page Global Storytelling Festival were nothing short of transformative. The event had been an overwhelming success, not just for Maya and her team, but for everyone who had attended or followed it online. Social media was abuzz with clips from the festival, soundbites from panels, and heartfelt testimonials from attendees who had found a renewed passion for storytelling. Maya, though exhausted, couldn't shake the sense of fulfillment she felt. This was bigger than she had ever dreamed. The bookstore that had been her family's lifeblood had grown into something much larger, a global movement that transcended borders and languages. However, there was one question she couldn't ignore. What's next? One evening, Maya sat in the cozy reading nook of the original bookstore, surrounded by the familiar scent of aged paper and polished wood. Her father was at the counter, flipping through an old ledger, and Keanu was perched on the arm of one of the chairs, sipping a cup of tea. "So," Keanu said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I know we've done a lot, but I get the sense that you're already thinking about what's next." Maya smiled wryly. "You know me too well. I've been thinking about how to keep the momentum going. The festival was incredible, but I don't want it to be a one-time thing. I want Plume and Page to be a continuous source of inspiration." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "Have you considered creating a foundation? Something that ensures the work keeps growing, even beyond the bookstore and the franchises." Maya tilted her head. "A foundation? You mean like a non-profit?" "Exactly," Keanu said. "You could focus on supporting emerging writers, funding literacy programs, and even creating scholarships for students who want to pursue careers in storytelling." The idea sparked something in Maya. A foundation could provide the structure and resources needed to expand their impact without being constrained by the day-to-day operations of the bookstores. It could also ensure that the mission of Plume and Page lived on for generations. "That's brilliant," she said, her mind racing with possibilities. "But it's a big step. How would we even start?" Keanu set his cup down and leaned forward. "The same way we started everything else, one step at a time. And you've got a lot of people who believe in you, Maya. You're not alone in this." Within weeks, Maya and her team began laying the groundwork for the Plume and Page Foundation. The mission was clear: to empower storytellers, promote literacy, and create opportunities for underrepresented voices to share their stories with the world. The foundation would fund writing programs in schools, partner with libraries to host community events, and provide grants to writers and artists who needed support to bring their projects to life. One of the foundation's first initiatives was a global storytelling competition, open to people of all ages and backgrounds. Participants were invited to submit stories, essays, or poems on the theme of connection. The winners would have their work published in an anthology, with proceeds going toward literacy programs in underserved communities. The competition quickly gained traction, with thousands of submissions pouring in from around the world. Maya and her team were blown away by the diversity and creativity of the entries. Stories came from small villages in India, bustling cities in South America, and remote islands in the Pacific. Each one offered a unique perspective, a glimpse into the lives and cultures of people from all walks of life. As Maya read through the submissions, she was struck by how deeply connected people truly were, despite their differences. It was a reminder of why she had started this journey in the first place: to celebrate the power of stories to bridge divides and bring people together. The anthology, titled Threads of Connection, was launched with great fanfare at a special event hosted at the original bookstore. The winners of the competition were flown in to share their stories in person, and the evening was filled with laughter, tears, and a profound sense of unity. One of the winners, a young woman from a rural village in Kenya, shared a story about how a single book she had found in her local library had inspired her to dream of becoming a writer. Another, an elderly man from Japan, recounted his experiences growing up during wartime and the lessons he had learned about resilience and hope. As Maya listened to their stories, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path her life had taken. She glanced at Keanu, who was seated in the front row, and saw the same emotion reflected in his expression. This was why they had done it: to give people the chance to share their voices and to remind the world that every story mattered. The success of the foundation brought new opportunities, but it also brought new challenges. As Plume and Page grew, Maya found herself grappling with the complexities of running a global organization. There were funding issues to navigate, partnerships to manage, and an ever-growing list of responsibilities that demanded her attention. Keanu remained a steady presence, always ready with advice or a listening ear. One evening, as they sat together in the cafe area of the bookstore, Maya confided in him about the pressures she was feeling. "I'm starting to wonder if I'm in over my head," she admitted. "There's so much to do, and I'm afraid of letting people down." Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression calm but firm. "Maya, you've already done more than most people could dream of. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, it just means you care. But don't forget, you're not alone. You've built a team, a community, and a movement. Trust them. Lean on them." His words resonated deeply, and Maya resolved to delegate more, allowing her team to take on greater responsibilities. She also made a point to carve out time for herself, reconnecting with the simple joys that had first inspired her love of books and stories. As the years went on, the Plume and Page Foundation continued to grow, touching lives in ways Maya had never imagined. New programs were launched, including a digital platform that offered free writing courses and storytelling resources to people around the world. The foundation also began working with refugee communities, using storytelling as a tool for healing and empowerment. Through it all, the original bookstore remained at the heart of the movement. It was a place where Maya and her father could always return, a reminder of where it all began. Keanu, too, remained a frequent visitor, often stopping by unannounced to catch up and brainstorm new ideas. One evening, as they sat together in the reading nook, Keanu turned to Maya with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "this started with you asking for help. And look what you've built. It's more than a legacy, it's a reminder of what's possible when people come together." Maya smiled, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when no one else did." Keanu shook his head. "You didn't need me to believe in you, you just needed someone to remind you of what you were capable of. The rest was all you." As they sat there, surrounded by the warmth of the bookstore and the echoes of countless stories, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. She knew there was still work to be done, but she also knew that she wasn't alone. Together, they had created something extraordinary, something that would continue to grow and inspire for generations to come.